not quite so populated, and so you might drive for miles and see nothing more than local wildlife in the form of rattlesnakes or something. And so it would be a real rarity to see a car pass you going the other direction, such that you would pay attention to it to some level that would be beyond being passed by a car in a city street. There's just that hyper level of awareness of reality around you because it's the first car you've seen in the last 20 minutes as you're going by these vast tracts of land. And what people have been reporting has been instances of having a utility truck ahead of them, driving in the same direction as them, that accelerates ever so slightly and then is gone from view on a lonely stretch of road, and you can't really quite understand that. And then within just a few minutes, you see it coming back towards you, headed the other direction. And yet, you could be quite sure that you would have seen it accelerate so fast as to be able to drive way ahead of you and turn around. And the whole sequence of events is just hard to put into words that are meaningful to everybody working with time as a linear concept. And basically what we think is happening into these areas is that it's literally, or it's actually falling out of the laboratories because of what these people are doing with their time experiments.
So would this be the time bubbles then? Is this
correct?
What you talk about, the time bubbles?
Yes, and see, I'm operating on a understanding of universe that basically has it's just energetic. Everything is energy. Matter is merely an illusion of the mind, and is processing it. Basically, what happens is this: in a nutshell, there's every second 22 trillion pulses are beamed, if you will, out of the middle of the universe, which go to the middle of the galaxy instantaneously, and from there go to the middle of every sun, again instantaneously, no time involved. And these 22 trillion pulses per second are the timekeepers of the illusion of material world, among other functions within universe. And the ordinary mind in which we operate at is fooled by the video and movies at 30 to 40 to 50 frames per second, and we even perceive mock 3D effects at slightly faster speeds, up to 90 frames a second. And so our brains are really operating at a very low level of perception, and we are thus fooled by these 22 trillion pulses into thinking that solid matter exists. And some of the parts of the pulse that are produced propagate the time stuff. And so in my understanding of universe, there's this continuous creation of these pulses coming out every 22 trillion times a second that a pulse hits anything within your body. Part of your body registers that pulse in the form of creating something, creating a new cell, making that material part of reality manifest. And then there's this little distance between the pulses in which that part of reality is allowed to disintegrate, so to speak. Without this, we couldn't have movement. You could easily demonstrate with some thought experiments that the crushing weight of all of the atoms of air would prevent anything from ever being able to breathe, and eventually all of universe would solidify if matter actually existed as persistent little rocks, so to speak, in the atomic form. And even the scientists acknowledge that if you took an atom and you expanded it to where you had an atom that was the size of a human in terms of height, about, say, 6 feet, the center of the atom would be in the middle of your football pitch, and the electrons would be somewhere 2.5 miles away. So even they acknowledge that an atom, as far as they're concerned, the ultimate core of solidity, is basically empty stuff. And now they've even basically abandoned the idea of the atom as existing at all, with the idea of subatomic particles, which is what that CERN reactor is theoretically doing. But the CERN reactor, getting us back to the hyperchronism, may indeed be doing things that are throwing off these waves of extra time stuff, or sucking in some extra time stuff, and thus depriving the neighborhood of enough, and thus you would maybe experience less time, but more time would seemingly pass, if that makes sense.
Sure. So the time control technology then, that's basically done by who? The US government? Or it's a global thing?
It's global. As far as I know, it's corporate, because we've now passed beyond the stage where government is a meaningful force, if you will, in my opinion. And so it's being done by subcontractors to government, but they all end up reporting to some Rothschild somewhere anyway. So the idea of government as the bad guy is I think, merely misdirecting.
Okay. Because we had a guest on a few weeks back, Dr. Judy Wood. I don't know if you're aware of the lady at all.
No.
No.
The name isn't familiar, no.
Well, Dr. Judy Wood, she talks of the 911 scenario where the Twin Towers didn't actually collapse, that they disappeared. And the reason that she has that opinion is because that she was saying that Black Ops was involved, and I know that you have spoken about the Black Ops as well.
Sure, I would buy at least that component of it, that it was nowhere near as straightforward as the idea of some enemy of choice target persons, the Semitic people they decided were the enemy here, the Saudis, actually flying airplanes into these structures. None of it made any sense at all. From the moment that you see Bush behaving abnormally, it was the only time he'd ever been to any school for any purpose in any official capacity, and he'd never read to children. The book he was reading was My Pet Goat. And by the way, Bush is part of the Skull and Bones, the 322 Society.
Yeah,
he's
right.
deeply involved in the whole Rothschild empire. The Bushies are one of the main crime cabals of the U.S. or of the Anglosphere, and here he is, and they love symbolism, these guys.
Yeah.
And one of their big gods is this fellow Bahoptet or whatever, who's this goat creature, half man, half goat thing. And here Bush is reading My Pet Goat to these kids at the exact moment that this is occurring. I don't buy it for an instant. It was just so abnormal just from that point on that the rest of the details are merely confirmatory.
Yeah. But you can take that anywhere. You've got Bohemian Grove and...
Correct. Yeah, this is all just, it's absurd when you think about it. Our, quote, leaders, and let's put double quotes around the term leaders here, the lizards of the moment, go to this grove which is beautiful, by the way, in Northern California, near the Russian River area, and cavort around underneath the trees, and worship an owl in, quote, mock human sacrifice rituals. Even if it were just mock human sacrifice rituals in which a child is theoretically burned in a mock fashion, that alone should be setting off alarm bells when you hear that it is the leaders of the, quote, free world that are doing this. The idea, just on the face of it, should have us all rise up and just shout out in horror. Even at a mock level, this is demonic. This is absurd.
That's right, and these guys are the guys that's supposed to be taking care of the planet.
Yeah, and they theoretically know what they're doing and charting the course for us all of that kind of stuff. No, it's it's at this point that with me that the conversation usually turns quite profane, because you start discussing the powers that be, as I refer to them in my report, and they are disheartening, to say the least. I've found no one honorable in any of the research I've done, in any of the leadership for any country. The closest thing we have to it is Putin, and he's probably reprehensible to his own people on many different levels. The only thing I can say for him is that he does not appear to be deeply involved in the powers that be, or if he is, he's playing a very excellent opposition role. It's quite disgusting. There's stupidity run amok, and it's no accident. It's all conspiracy, and basically any conspiracy that one cares to throw up has undoubtedly got some level of fact involved in it. I won't say truth, because truth is an emotional attachment applied to certain facts, but you start looking at the facts, and as I say, it's all quite disgusting.
Yeah.
And yes, David Icke is probably quite correct. The moon is not a real planet; it's an artificial construct. and there's a bunch of reptilians running around, and we're actually involved in interdimensional politics, and are basically pig ignorant of it.
Well, that's some that's something that we can get into in a wee while's time, because that was actually something that I was listening to you speak about. Was the space wars almost, is what you're describing.
We're breaking up again. Somebody's intruding here, I think. I'm getting about every third word again. Something's going on there.
Okay, well, I don't know what's happening here. I'm just going to check my my call levels. You should be hearing.
Yeah, we've got.
Hello?
Thing.
Aye. Can you hear me now? Yeah. What we'll do, guys, is we'll take a wee song break, and we'll come back in just a wee second.